ready? I'm Vin.
I'm Sori.
And this is Yerushalayim, or as you filthy goy would say, Jerusalem. This is brought to you by the big homie. Who's the big homie? Mukmeh. For tiny topical political commentary, you can hit us up in Middle America. That looks so disgusting. You can hit us up.
It's zucchini, and it has pizza.
Disgusting.
It's a pizza made on zucchini instead of.
It's also a pizza made of disgusting.
But it's healthier because
for timely
I have gestational diabetes.
Political commentary, you can hit us up at Middle America with Vin and Sori. We've got probably the most controversial video we've ever shot on that. In general.
It's good though.
In general. Well, of course, it's good. And now, if you, dear listener, would like to be like Mukmeh, and you want to get a song directly listened to, and you don't want to go through the alliance system, you know, the $1 on Patreon thing where you get together with an alliance and the alliance comes together and pools their points. If you don't want to do that and you want to jump straight to the head of the line, 125 at the gate gets you straight in front of everybody, and then on top of that, you do that 3 times, you get rolled back down to 75. This is from the record Chemical Wedding, and it's a song Jerusalem. What?
Chemical Wedding. Yikes.
Why is that? What's yikesy about that?
There's so many things that I think about. One is I think about, drugs, or I think about that place they got blown up on their wedding, and there's just a lot of chemical warfare.
Chemical warfare.
All right, ready?
Go. Is that a lyric for you? I got lyrics here for you.
And did those feet in ancient times walk upon England's mountains green? Was the holy Lamb of God on England's pleasant pastures seen? And did the countenance divine shine forth on a clouded hill? Was Jerusalem built here in England's green and pleasant land? Let it rain, let it rain, wash the scales from my eyes. Let it rain, let it rain, let me see it again. Bring me my bow of burning gold. Bring me my arrows of desire. I shall not sleep till the clouds unfold. Bring me my chariot of fire. Let it rain. Let
Here is her secret place. From hence she comes forth on the churches in delight. Here is her cup, filled with its poisons. In these horrid veils, and here her scarlet veil woven in pestilence and war. Here is Jerusalem bound in chains, in the dens of Babylon.
Whoa. Woo, he's not playing with y'all. You just said they were the whore of Babylon, basically. Huh? As I'm listening to this song, I'm like, damn, there's so many directions we can go with this song. The concept of Zion or Jerusalem in biblical theology from Genesis all the way to Revelation is a massively fascinating concept or idea.
Where do you think he was going with that?
Well, you know, the Holy Grail, you know, that was in England. There's some, I don't want to call it like mythology, but like the idea that Jesus actually showed up in England. Like he showed up in England and all that and like, you know, holy bloodlines and all this very, very strange stuff. Then you've got the idea that they're the Antichrist. Like their family is like housing the Antichrist. Like, so there's like a whole bunch of theology.
Whose family? England's family?
The royal family, the British royal family.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
There's theology on both sides, either exalting them as like the descendants of Christ or saying that they're the Antichrist.
Wow, is it like a small group of people that believe that? That's pretty crazy.
Well, I mean, you know, it's kind of like a species of manifest destiny where like they're the new Israel, the new chosen people. You know what I mean? Like England and all that, which of course, you know, Americans talk like that, right? Like, and that's what the Puritans said. You know, the Puritans were saying that America is a specifically chosen land, blah 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 blah. But they all descended from England. That was English theology. It wasn't. This is not something they invented. It just so happened that they were so righteous that God would never exalt England over them. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, so there's so many things to say. Like the concept of Jerusalem or the Zion is a really interesting one. So you have Genesis and God tells everybody to exercise dominion over the earth. Like you're supposed to advance in the arts, the sciences, etc. And after Cain kills Abel,
we're never supposed to just stay in the garden. Most people don't realize that.
Right, breed fruit, multiply, fill the earth, and subdue it, dominate it. Yep. And so that is to dominate the physical world. And so after Cain kills his brother, he builds a city, and then you start seeing metallurgy and all these other kind of human industries, and it's actually starting through Cain's line, and Cain is the bad guy. So it's very interesting. Then the flood happens, and then when you get to like Genesis 11, the people basically say, God said, go, spread out across the earth. And they're like, no, we want to actually stay together. So this is in the plains of Shinar, which is Babylon, and so they start building this tower, the Tower of Babel, a famous story, and you know, most scholars are pretty univocal on the idea that this is a ziggurat. You know, a ziggurat was this kind of layered, almost
stairs on the outside,
pyramid-like structure, and once you get to the top of it, that's where you interface with the gods. Yeah. And so they had a city, Babylon, and then they had a temple. You know, the tower was really a temple. You know, right? So this is like mankind in his ultimate, you know, pinnacle of existence against God. We're going to build our own city, we're going to come up with our own stuff, and we're going to make our own religion, and we've got a city and we've got a temple. So hundreds of years later, you have King David, right? And King David is a conqueror, he beats all the bad guys, and sure enough, he has a city, and then in that city, there's a temple that's built, right? So the, you know, Augustine talked about this in the city of God, right? There's a city of man and a city of God. So Babylon and their tower, you know, where they go to make a name for themselves, like the pinnacle of human ingenuity, pride, and arrogance and hubris, is there as a city and a temple. But then Jerusalem is basically God's answer to Babylon, because you've got a city, Jerusalem, and then you've got the temple.
Right.
And so Basically, a lot of biblical theology is simply a war between two cities. The city of God versus the city of man, and they're constantly in conflict with each other because there are two impossible to repress inclinations in the human soul. One is discovery, dominating the earth, community, all those things that get manifested in the city. And the other is the religious impulse, the impulse to worship something.
Yeah.
And so now these two cities are juxtaposed with one another. And, throughout the entire narrative, it's like, well, who's going to win? And so then later on in Revelation, you have the whore of Babylon, but then you have the bride of Christ. And the bride is explicitly identified with a city. So, like, when you go to Galatians 4, Paul talks about physical Judaism versus spiritual Judaism.
Right, yeah.
And Paul says the Jerusalem below is in slavery with her children. So there's a earthly Jerusalem that's being referred to as a person, a her. So the Jerusalem below is in slavery with her children, but the Jerusalem above is free, and she is our mother.
Yep.
So what ends up happening is Jerusalem is supposed to be the answer to, Babylon. But what ends up happening is the Babylonian system, the Babylonian mindset, the disregard for God's true worship and the disregard for humility and things like that, infiltrates Jerusalem, so much so that the Jerusalem below is basically indistinguishable from Babylon, and that's why the Jerusalem below is in slavery with their children. And then you're looking for another Jerusalem, and it explicitly says, descending from heaven,
right,
like a bride. I mean, so when Paul says that Jerusalem above is free and she is our mother, what he's saying is that there is a city with a temple that we, God's people, belong to, and she's our mother in the sense that we were born again from that place. So when Jesus says, unless you're born again, and the textual variant says, unless you're born from above.
Right. Yeah, you're right.
Right. So you have to be spiritually reborn from above, and if you are, then the womb from which you came out into the new world was the Jerusalem above. So Paul says she is our mother. So Jerusalem is being pictured at the end of Revelation as descending to the earth, which basically means just like there was one city that invaded another city in the Old Testament period, this city is coming to infiltrate the entire planet, and it's going to subsume everything, and there will be no more resistance to it. And so the concept that heaven and earth are going to be matched together, and the fact, and very interestingly, in Revelation 20 through 22, heaven is basically characterized as G.K. Beale says, a city with a temple that's garden-like. Right? And so anyway, so that's why the Jerusalem idea is it's such a powerful concept in Christian and Jewish history. But then there's, as the line of demarcation between church and state gets more and more blurred, you have state actors that then try to say, okay, Jerusalem is us. So instead of saying Jerusalem is above and Jerusalem is for the whole world, and the way that we get everybody into Jerusalem is by preaching the gospel, doing good works, and dying as martyrs. That's basically been the formula. What happens is these people start to politicize the religious concept of Jerusalem and say, hey, we're Jerusalem, we're the chosen people, we're the, God's locus on the planet, and blah, 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 blah. And so that then gives us the right to go out and, with sword in hand, go slaughter all these people and expand Jerusalem, because after all, don't you want this thing to expand to the whole world? And so, of course, it's supposed to expand to the whole world, but it's supposed to expand throughout the world.
Not like that.
The way that Jesus did it. Which is to die a brutal, horrible death and not fight back. It is not to be the attacker.
Right.
So, apparently this was based on another, on an earlier poem, but if you look at, like, the last, spoken word part, it doesn't look like either the original author or Bruce Dickinson agree with the assessment that England is Jerusalem. Because here, in the last spoken word, it's clear that he's referring to the whore of Babylon.
Yeah.
Because the whore of Babylon in Revelation is wearing scarlet. Mm-hmm. And she's got a cup filled with abominations. And sure enough, this woman has a cup filled with poisons. Mm-hmm. So to me, this song is a pretty elaborate and ironic critique of Great Britain or London or England or whatever you want to call it, and their sort of manifest destiny theology that, oh yeah, we're the Jerusalem, and he's like, what are you talking about? Your guys look a lot more like Babylon than Jerusalem. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
But this ethnocentrism that gets justified by theology is it's part of American theology. I don't know if you saw like Left Behind Part 2, the one with Kirk Cameron.
I did, but I don't remember much.
So, like, all the world is following the Antichrist.
Yeah.
Except the Christians on the ground, obviously, and the American president. SubhanAllah.
Really? I don't remember that.
Yes, it's the president of America's like, man, I don't know if we should really listen to the Antichrist, blah, blah, blah. And then at the last scene, I hope I can find it, you have all these people like crying out to America to save them from the beast and all this.
That actually sounds
And I was like, yo, this is mega blasphemous, bro. Like, this is like quadrillion blasphemy. Like, really, first of all, the idea that people are saying, oh, America, save us from the Antichrist is like, even if you believe in that theology, which we don't, but like, even if you did, it's like, what? That's like, isn't Jesus supposed to be the star of that show? Like, you're crying. And then secondly, it's like,
how could they have done that?
Secondly, to me, it's like, what are you talking about? Like, America is Jerusalem. Like, after England passed us the baton as far as lone superpower in the world, we took that shit and perfected murder of other people. So, what? But this is a sort of this is the stuff you fall into when you associate, religion, whatever you want to call it, with, God and politics and all that, and try to make a political justification for it. But yeah, Left Behind was crazy.
You probably can just look up that exact scene.
The president
begging for America, whatever, you know what I mean? Like, I'm sure that they...
Yeah, I'll try to find it for you guys.
Individually.
I thought it was crazy. It was an unbelievable idea.
So so you're not sure so you're thinking, how long has this England idea been around? Is that a while?
I'm not sure about the actual date, but I mean, you've got the Anglican Church over there. I mean, it makes sense. I mean,
that they're hiding the Antichrist?
Oh, that conspiracy theory. I first got into that theory in 2001. PrinceWilliam. But there was another guy. It was like Prince. It was like 1, 2, 3. It was like 666. Like, oh, and they had the coat of arms, and then I think it was England that suggested that.
Whenever I hear these things, I always liked it.
The European Union, the EU symbol, and they were saying that the British came up with the EU symbol, and here's a woman riding a beast.
Oh my gosh. That was kind of weird.
Like, it's a woman riding the beast, and the guy was like, England came up with that, whatever. Like, look, she's riding a beast, and she's dressed in purple, and yada, yada, yada. Go ahead.
Is that like their, I don't know, like, is that like their animal that represents them?
I mean, I really don't know.
That is kind of weird, like.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of weird, but I don't really think it has anything to do with, I don't think that that's where they're going. But the guy whose website I was reading was pretty convinced, and I was like, holy shit! Look, see, the European Union's woman on the beast. So
when I was in Bible college, one of my classes, they did that where they was like pointing out a few of these like different theories, and I thought it was such an interesting class because like there was so many things that it was like they would tell you one, you're like, whoa, that sounds like it could be it, because I like believed in all like that dispensationalist kind of mindset back then.
Yeah.
So, and then they would be like, they'd bring up something else, and then they'd show you some. I was like, oh my word! Or like, what is it? Like Nero was 666.
Yeah.
And or there was something about the Pope, and like there's all these different theories of who or where the Antichrist is. But I don't know. I just found it really fascinating.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy stuff.
Plus, I think I like conspiracies.
You think? Yeah, you love conspiracies.
I think I do.
Yeah, I could tell.
But
Good Lord.
anyway.
What do you get the song?
Sometimes I think I like them because they make the world more interesting than what it is.
I think the world is plenty interesting.
Yeah, I know, but this was before I met you.
Sure.
So I didn't realize.
Sure.
Now I'm like, stop telling me, it's too much information. There's too much happening in the world.
Right.
That lady, when I took Zoe for her dental work, she was like, because he was like, so who are you voting for president? And then I thought he was just joking around talking to Zoe, but he was actually talking to me, I guess. And then the lady was like, that is extremely controversial. That's a topic that can cause fights. And then she said she doesn't let her husband watch the news past a certain time, like at night. She doesn't let him. I thought that was really weird wording. You don't let him? He's a grown man. What do you mean don't let him?
Yeah, that's wise, because he's a grown man. He has other interests.
What? Say that again?
What do you give the song?
A 9.8.
Yeah, 9.7 for me. This guy,
it was
Bruce,
well done.
Bruce, man, he's coming very close to unseating Dio. But I said close.
You like him a lot.
I said close. All right, ladies and gentlemen, there you go. The moral of the story is that Jerusalem's in heaven, and it's not. It's not in England or America. But I don't think I had to tell you that, did I? Dear listener. Vin out.
Sori out.
Gone. Unless Johnny Haas is watching then.
In which case.
Probably want to burn me at the stake. How dare you say that against America?